Hi, I'm Ken Howard, and welcome to the Gay Therapy LA podcast. Today, I want to talk about gay men's dating, what your dates aren't telling you. It's been a long time, 32 years in 2024, that I've been a gay men's specialist, psychotherapist in California, ASECT certified sex therapist, and life, career, relationship, and sex coach worldwide. And in that time, I've worked with hundreds of single gay men who share the rewards and challenges of their dating life. And I've coached many guys on how to date successfully and even to be a better sexual partner. Although sex therapy is still talk therapy. It's not sexual surrogacy or any kind of physical contact. That's different. And of course, hundreds of gay male couples and polycules over the years. I've had to be tough sometimes. I have a saying that the older I get, the stronger my opinions get. Because I see gay men doing the same things over and over that self-sabotage and generally fuck up their lives. And fortunately, I see the same strategies work to solve problems over and over that reliably make your life better personally and professionally. And isn't it great when things just work like they should? That's my job. That's what gay men hire me for. Providers like therapists and coaches can never ethically make guarantees for an outcome, but we can share what we've seen work for many guys over time with similar problems. So gay men come to me with a lot of dating complaints and frustrations. Being single is not really easy for anyone. Just ask, single, straight, cisgender women. But there are unique challenges for gay men as sexual minorities in society. To find the right partner, and guys do it every day despite all the challenges, you have to have some combination of luck and skill. There's not much you can do about serendipity and luck. That is up to the fates or the universe or God or whatever, but you can help your skills. And sometimes you're the last one to know that you lack certain skills that, if learned, would help your dating success. And you really don't want to be the last one to know. So guys often debrief with me about their past week when they start their sessions. And since their last session, they can report back to me, how their dates went. And they aren't shy in sharing what they did not enjoy about them. So I wanted to share here some of what I hear them telling me about their dates that they certainly are not frank enough to tell them. So let's look at some of these in no particular order. Because then if you're aware of them, if you can adjust any one of these that maybe you're vulnerable to doing or not doing, then maybe you'll have better success in your dating life and you'll make a better impression. Now everybody's a little different, and so these tips don't work for everybody. And they can be controversial because they can get into things like the politics of appearance and things like that. And some things you just can't help. So not really talking about those things, but we want to look at changing the things that you can that might make a better impression. We hear that about job interviews, how to make a better impression in a job interview. But it's a very similar process with dating, because what you're trying to do is to be with another person and have them experience you as a positive experience, that they want to spend time with you, they want to get to know you. And of course, every long-term relationship, that I've worked with where guys are together for years and years and years, every single one of them at some point had some kind of a first date. So it starts in early dating. So let's just look at these. Number one is chatty versus listener. It's just human nature and part of our ego that we like to be listened to and validated and admired. That's not narcissism. That's just kind of a healthy need to interact with people. So there are times when actually flattery will get you everywhere, especially a second date or in bed. You don't want to be that guy that perhaps out of nervousness or social anxiety talks too much about himself. It's such an easy pitfall of dating to fall into. If you talk too much about yourself, either about what you are or have or what you earn, you're going to turn off your date. Same thing if you complain too much about society or your job or your family, and certainly about exes. If you're going to talk about yourself, it makes the best impression if you speak about your passions, what brings you joy, what amuses you, what gives you pleasure, what you're rewarded by, and certainly what excites you. Excitement is contagious and makes you charming. Bragging, even humble bragging, is not. You don't want to be that guy that when your date goes home and he's asked about his date with you, says to his roommate or something, "Oh my God, that guy just would not shut up." He'll never tell you that, but he will tell his roommate or his friend or his therapist that, and you won't hear that. In fact, you won't hear from him again, especially about having a second date. Number 2 is the subject of kids. Now, I've written before, when you're in a relationship as a gay man and one of you wants kids and the other one doesn't. There's a previous podcast episode just on that topic. But it's best to avoid the whole kids topic on a first date. If you bring up kids too early in the dating process, it tends to make your date feel smothered and obligated, like you're trying to force him to commit to a big life decisions with you drastically prematurely. So even if you know you're dating someone and you want to find a partner who can also be a co-parent with you eventually, that's a topic for discussion a little further down the line after you know that there's a strong foundational relationship there. Number 3 is ambition. And this one is tough because it's about balance. If you don't have enough ambition, if you appear lackadaisical or lazy and goalless, that's a turnoff. I've heard that one a lot. Your date worries, even unconsciously, that you're going to be a mooch and he's going to have to support you on his salary, whether that's low or high, while you languish and fail to really launch professionally. That isn't sexy. Having and discussing some dreams and goals, however short-term and realistic or longer-term and bold and challenging, that's good. Not knowing what you'll do in life past this weekend's parties, that's not. But similarly, being, Mr. Log Cabin Republican and bragging about how you are or have made your first $1 million by the time you're 30 because you're just all that, especially in a way that reveals that you ruthlessly exploit others, that's a turnoff. So much of dating is about balance between two poles, two extremes, and that's what makes dating hard because it can feel like a tightrope walk. The key here is discretion and balance. And you can't always gauge how you're doing by their reactions in the moment, because even if they can't stand you, they probably won't show it to you on your date. You just have to live during that time you're with them with the ambiguity that they may or may not be enjoying this. You'll know that they do if you find yourself on subsequent dates. Number 4 is guys that are closeted. Dating a closeted guy can have a certain naughty hotness to it, but, it's the idyllic affair with the straight guy who's married and, it's illicit and it's naughty and it's kind of hot. But, that gets old fast. The annoyance of his having to do somersaults to avoid being caught by his wife or his kids or his work obligations gets old fast. Plus, it's very invalidating to you as a gay man to be treated by someone else as their dirty little secret that they have to, which is BS, hide. And being told he's going to, come out soon and leave his wife or parents or whatever, that almost never happens in reality. Because he's too comfortable emotionally and financially and socially with the status to risk all that, even for you. He wants both the life of heterosexual privilege and he wants dick. And while that might be great for him, sure, nice work if you can get it, if you want a serious adult romantic egalitarian domestic relationship with a guy, you will never find it as long as you're wasting dating time with Mr. Closet Case over here. Number 5, douching. Most guys will never say what they really feel about sexual situations, but they are thinking it, and they will probably talk about it later, just not with you. Problems in both oral and anal sex are definite pitfalls. Using your teeth while you're performing fellatio, not swallowing, being a spitter, not douching as a bottom and giving him a little something more than he was expecting or asking for. Sure, some hygiene accidents can happen in sex, and gracious gay men understand this and just move on. But you can certainly do your part to prepare that if you're going to bottom, even if there's a reasonable chance that you will, attend to your sexual health by performing a reasonable, not excessive, anal water douche. Take your fiber, watch your eating, so that you're not with diarrhea or gassy on the night of your date, if at all possible. Lots of resources about sexual preparation for bottoming are out there, so use them. Lots of books on better oral sex performance are out there. I just got a new one called Blow Him Away by Marcy Michaels. But there's a lot of them if you just look on Amazon or wherever you get your books. And they can be very practically instructive about sexual skills. You also don't want to be lazy, be a lazy lay who just kind of lays there and says, ooh, do me, I'm beautiful. You want to be an active, enthusiastic, but not spastic participant in the action, and that is hopefully varied. So there's another episode on being a better lover, so you might want to check out that for the details on how you do that. I mean, you can be verbal and you can be really into it in sex with him, but you don't have to wake the neighbors or these days your 7 roommates that it takes to make rent. You want to be skilled in oral or anal or manual and lots of sexual techniques that you can cultivate over time in your repertoire, including possibly kink play and its various equipment, and get coaching on that if you have to. Lately, I've been just coaching guys on better topping. I have 2 different guys I'm working with on that because they just need that practical behavioral therapy or behavioral coaching support about what you do as a lover. We don't have a lot of resources for that. Even other therapists or coaches don't do that because they're not sex therapists and they're just not willing or interested in doing that. But we need better resources than just porn to educate us on sexual techniques. And you don't want to be labeled the guy that's the bad lay for whatever reason after your date debriefs with others later. So a little plug here. I'm going to be offering a new online course, Gay Men Improving Sexual Self-Confidence, available on the Thinkific.com platform. Thinkific.com is a platform for online courses, and they have a catalog from different authors on there. I think it's a dumb word, Thinkific, but it's there, and it's one of the more popular platforms. So that's going to be available shortly. This is July 2024 right now, and it's going to be probably available next month after I put some finishing touches with some graphics and launch it. So if you're interested in taking the course, Gay Men Improving Sexual Self-Confidence, that will be available soon. And the existing course that I've already launched, Gay Men Starting Your Own Business, based on my experience starting my own practice and being successful with that. But you can have any product or service and be your own boss, either as your full-time job or as a side hustle. And Gay Men and Starting Your Own Business is the course for that, if you're interested in that on Thinkific. So I'll be announcing the sexual self-confidence course in a future podcast episode and certainly on like an Instagram post. So the next one is bad breath. I hear this one so often, and it's so simple. You're going to be close to a guy, kissing him with your mouth front and center. You want to make sure that mouth is a clean, fresh, pleasant environment to be this close to. And you can consult with your dentist if you have concerns, or a dental hygienist. So, practical steps like brushing your teeth, using mouthwash or just a strong mint after dinner, flossing your teeth, using a water pick device. I recently started using one of those. It's a lot of fun. Scraping your tongue, that is a huge one. Scraping your tongue with a plastic or metal tongue scraper goes a long way toward having fresh breath. And avoiding certain spicy foods, garlic being the classic one, are all good tips. And you can even ask your date. Don't let him have to subtly tell you, or even not subtly tell you. You can ask your date, hey, I ate onions on a burger at lunch earlier. Do I need a mint? And let your date tell you if the answer is yes. So, just kind of make a joke out of it. Say, oops, I still have remnants of lunch on me. So, if so, you just excuse yourself and do something like retreat to your bathroom or even at his place, and use the mouthwash or even his toothpaste, not his toothbrush, of course, but, swish around with some toothpaste and do a quick freshen up, and then get back to the business of making out as foreplay. Number 7 is your nails and your nose hair and your ear hair. If you don't notice in the mirror what's happening before your date will notice it an hour later on the date. So look down. What do your nails look like? Dirty nails is actually a complaint I hear about casually often. Bitten nails are not ideal, but they're somewhat forgivable because everybody's anxious these days. And, some guys do, some guys don't with that. But cleaning them with a basic manicure kit that you can get at a drugstore is important. Then take a look slightly up in the mirror and assess the nose hair situation. The older you get, the faster it grows, as I've learned as an older person. And what about your eyebrows? If you're young, they're probably on fleek, as the internet influencer coined, and they're probably fine. But if you're older, you can get scraggly single hairs that need trimming with a little cuticle scissors from your manicure kit. Check your ears. If you're younger, they're probably fine, but when you get older, you can get odd little hairs there that stick up on the tops of your ears that just look better shaved off, even if or inside your ear as well. Even if your look is overall edgy, a certain basic neatness mirror check before you leave home for your date is always impressive. What about sports? Gay men can go either way on sports. Some like not at all, some like a lot, ooh, how butch. Some like some but not all, some are nonchalant, and others are raving superfans about their home team in something. So discretion on dates might be to ask your date about his sports interests and leave it alone if he has none. But if he has some, even if you don't, it can be validating for you to listen to his interests and let him share his enjoyment of them. What games does he like? What teams does he like? And why? Maybe he associates rooting for a team with being with friends, or his family as, lifelong Patriots fans, or whatever it is. So like any topic, even if you don't share the same interests, he's going to like you if you're willing to listen and you get to share your interests too. And ideally you have some interest in common, but even if you don't share his level of, fanaticism, enthusiasm, it can be charming for a guy to talk about what he loves. So don't yuck his yum. Number 9 is femininity. It's a pitfall to say that more masculine gay men are superior to more feminine gay men. It's such misogyny in general against anything that seems womanly, whatever that means. And it's misandry in the idea that men can't be themselves, whatever their style of expression or personality or demeanor is. Butch men are not superior men, they're just butch. Femme men are still men, unless somebody is identifying as trans or non-binary. And these days, it's especially important to validate someone's identity. Gender role enforcement rage, which there's another episode on earlier, is just passé at this point. But how butch or femme you are on a spectrum might be a point of compatibility in dating. Something to keep in mind, but don't be someone that you're not. And it's okay to have your preferences overall, but we're trying in the modern era to be more affirmative about gender and gender roles, but at the same time we also have kind of a right to like what we like, and that gets controversial, but it's different. Just being a racist is different from preferring a certain type of guy. So, you're not being a bigot about short people if you're turned on by tall guys, something like that. So, again, it's a tightrope walk between being, obnoxious or discriminatory or prejudicial versus recognizing what you're drawn to and level of masculine or feminine presentation can be one of the variables in that. Next one, also controversy, is belly. We want to get away from the old days of Adonis complex and body fascism and all that. But right or wrong, I do hear guys, many over the years, either appreciate an athletic physique or criticize overweight or obesity or a belly. Some guys specifically get turned on by dad bod, and others very specifically do not. You can avoid any guy who doesn't have 8-pack abs, but you might be lonely doing that, especially in the long term. Today's 8-pack abs are very often, Santa Claus without padding in about 20 years, if you're lucky enough for your relationship to last that long. And it's just a stark reality that gay men do tend to like a muscular or lean physique, which is why gyms and personal trainers are a multi-billion-dollar business, even with just gay men worldwide, let alone others. So you have to decide what's right for you, both what you are and what you like, but accept that body shape preference is just going to be a variable in dating. Number 11 is the messy place. You don't have to be Architectural Digest in your home, but if your date sees where you live, you can at least take care of the basics. Before a date, if you think you might end up at your place, or if he's picking you up there, or even if you're having him over for dinner and Netflix and chill, just take a look around where you live. What would a potential visitor be turned off by? Is there pet hair on your cushions? Is there any trash around that needs to be thrown away? Is there anything that's cluttering that needs to be put away or organized? Is something dusty or smudged or stained that could benefit from a quick application of cleaning supplies like a carpet spot cleaner or Windex or Formula 409 or one of those cleaning products? Are there outdated magazines that are stacked too high? Are all of your clothes put away? Is there any lingering scent from last night's dinner in the air? If so, use Lysol or Febreze or one of those air cleaners. Is the bathroom mirror clean? Is the toilet free of drip spots? Are the trash cans reasonably emptied, including in the bathroom? So, like it or not, if your place is messy at all, your date will notice and it will lower his impression of you. Even if you can't afford expensive furniture or appliances or devices, and even if your place is older with older carpeting or drapes or window treatments, you can still make the most of what your place is by a basic cleanliness and a basic neatness. And if he's going to be mad because your furniture isn't designer and new, then there are more problems going on than just that. Number 12 is pet behavior. Take care to think about how your pets behave if you have them when your date is visiting. If you have a dog that barks a lot or jumps up on people, try to control your dog. Your date doesn't want pet hair all over his black jeans. Or if your dog is being distracting with noise or hyper behavior for attention. Or a cat that likes to jump in people's laps and possibly snag his new sweater. Or a boa constrictor who wants to get really close. I'm kidding on that. But, sure, you love your pet, but to your date, it's new. They don't love them yet. They just see them as this animal. And it's a new thing to get used to. And he's there to date you, not your pet. So put pets in another room if you go to the bedroom together. Number 13, mentioned this a minute ago, negative content. In conversation with your date, be careful of the classic red flags that guys say on dates that turn off their dates. Talking shit about your ex, complaining too much about your job, emphasizing your own insecurities and flaws. Self-deprecating humor only goes so far. Or the opposite, of bragging too much and alienating your date with, this impressive recitation of your resume. Or criticizing whole groups of people outright, such as ethnicities or races or national origin or disabilities. Those are all no-nos on dates in terms of the content of what you say. So when in doubt, ask him about himself, maybe where he's from, although that might trigger bad memories, if any, from his family of origin, or what he does for work, although he's off the clock, so be careful there. And certainly a safe area is asking what he enjoys. from movies to TV to sports to books to crafts to, any kind of pastime or hobby. People like people who ask them to talk about the things they like, even if you don't like the same things. Let him express his joy of what he likes to do, especially the dorky things like going to a comics convention or video games that you've never heard or seen about. Let him tell you, because it's fun to see somebody talk about what they enjoy. You'll watch their face kind of light up. Next is behavior to others. Guys will complain about their dates that they just had if the date treats others badly. Certainly, being polite to server staff or valet parking attendants or coat check staff or restaurant hosts or hostesses or theater ushers or parking attendants, the people at the next table at the restaurant, running into people that you know in public, are all going to be these interpersonal interactions that he's observing and possibly judging you on. Introduce him. If you run into friends of yours inadvertently when you're out on a date, be sure to introduce him. You have to remember all their names, which can be a little anxiety-provoking with social anxiety. But if you can, introduce him to your friends so that he feels included, so he's not just standing there while you talk to friends you already know. Even how he drives or treats other drivers is a factor, especially if he's driving aggressively or takes up 2 spaces parking or something. It's always good to be polite to others, always. But when you're on a date, it's especially important. Number 15 is money miserliness. If you really can't afford to treat your date at dinner or the theater or something like that, just be upfront. You can explain that you're having a tight month and suggest that you split the dinner bill or the cost of theater tickets, but you might want to mention this before the date, or suggest that you'll get the dinner tab and he can get the movie tickets, something like that. It's so cliche to do this stuff like, oh, you should pay for everything if you ask someone out. That's so outdated. That's from the old misogynist model that, men make more money and so they pay for the woman who doesn't make as much, and that justifies pay disparities. That stuff is just outdated. A lot of people today, especially younger people, just cannot afford to pay for cocktails, dinner, dessert, tipping, valet parking, movie tickets, movie concessions, snacks, all by themselves. They just couldn't go out very often. So just be upfront. But also understand the cost of doing business. If he invites you to his uncle's cabin at a ski resort, then offer to cover something. Don't just sit there and be treated for everything. Even if you don't make much money or as much money as he does, there's always something that you can spend on. Buying snacks at a gas station on the road trip, or buying some groceries for breakfast at the cabin. You don't have to overextend your budget, because that would be personally financially irresponsible, as Susie Orman would say. But you also don't have to be stingy or entitled either. And most people know the difference. Again, the balance, walking the tightrope. If you ask a guy out and he works as a server at a little coffee shop and you're a CPA with your own firm, don't ask him to split the dinner bill at a 4-star restaurant. Cover dinner and tip. And then if he offers to pay the valet parking tip of $5 or whatever, then let him do that. But be aware of the relative proportion of your incomes. And I've talked about that before in other episodes about income disparities in gay men's relationships. That's a whole other topic. The last one, tentative, tops or bottoms in sex. If things progress to sex, give him a good time. It all has to be consensual and reasonably safe, so you discuss things like PrEP and or condoms or whatever. But lots of guys complain to me about guys who are tentative tops or bump on a log bottoms. Be into it, be enthusiastic. Don't violate your own boundaries, like agreeing to do something that's painful or unsafe or triggering, but it's okay to get into it. And, my previous episodes on overcoming fear of topping and overcoming fear of bottoming might help with this. So this isn't an exhaustive list on how to stave off or prevent your date griping about you later to their roommate or their friends, but it covers the basics. You can't account for everything in attraction and chemistry and personalities and culture and values. But part of being the good lover, and I've talked about that in other episodes, is also being the good date. And if you cover these basics, then you're much more likely to make a good impression and for both of you to have a good time and to have a second date. So if you would like more customized help about your dating life or anything, any topic about your situations, please consider booking an appointment for psychotherapy for guys in California, where I'm licensed for that. Because, sometimes psychological challenges can get in the way of dating. Social anxiety, depression, generalized anxiety, trauma survivors. There's lots of ways that our mental health can affect our dating life. Or coaching services from anywhere in the world. I'm doing that a lot lately, of just doing the math of figuring out the time zone difference when we schedule appointments. But it's possible to do from any corner of the world. We just sometimes it means you're meeting with me late at night or early in the morning, depending on where you are, like if you're in Europe or Australia or something. But, we make it work. We find a time. Now, there's some areas of overlap between psychotherapy and coaching, but there's also some important legal and ethical differences that are important to differentiate between these types of professional services. So my website is gaytherapyla.com, but you can also see gaycoachingla.com for the coaching services. And that's for dating or for executives or for sexual issues or for just your life goal setting. I can also I answer any questions that you have about all of that. There's blog articles on each of the websites under the blog tab. And of course, there are lots of other episodes. This is 151, so check out some of the other episodes and see if you might find those helpful. And remember about the online courses, Gay Men Starting Your Own Business on the Thinkific course platform, and the Gay Men Improving Sexual Self-Confidence one that's coming soon. And let me know if you have questions on those, or if you have suggestions for future podcast episode topics or online courses that you'd like to see me develop, which are, longer and more elaborate than something like this as a podcast episode. Your suggestions and your comments are always welcome. So ken@gaytherapyla.com is one email. ken@gaycoachingla, it'll all reach me. Or you can just call or text. Call or on WhatsApp, 310-339-5778. So 310-339-5778. They always say repeat things 3 times. 310-339-5778. Texting is the fastest way to reach me usually. And I would be happy to help. And also check out my Instagram, gaytherapyla. So thanks, and I'll see you next time.